We're enjoying some very nice June weather here in Washington. Absolutely perfect for America's all-consuming national pastimes, baseball and, of course, politics. Last night, those two came together at the annual congressional baseball game. It was the first since a gunman shot 4 people at a practice last June, including House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, who doctors say was lucky to survive. He started the game and even recorded the first out. Now, baseball has a long tradition in the fabric of American life, which is why occupants of the White House usually embrace it. That's the focus of Curt Smith's new book, The Presidents and the Pastime, The History of Baseball and the White House. I spoke to Curt earlier. Curt Smith, baseball is the quintessential American sport. So which president was the first to see the importance of its profile in national life?
I think probably William Howard Taft in 1910, all 300 pounds of him, throwing out the first ball and inaugurating the right of throwing out the first ball to begin every baseball season. But you know, the game itself goes back to before there was a republic, when we had a skirmish between, as I recall, the Brits and the Americans. General Washington at Valley Forge threw the ball back and forth for hours with his aide-de-camp. A game of rounders, the British antecedent of baseball. Abraham Lincoln playing town ball outside of the White House and bringing the game inside. He actually played baseball in the corridors, using the corridors as base paths. But I think William Howard Taft really was the first, and since then, and I have a chapter on every president since then, up through and including Donald Trump, we have a chapter showing the president's relationship to the game, to the culture and the presidency's relation to him.
It's completely fascinating, and you reveal in your book that Teddy Roosevelt didn't really like baseball, but FDR saved the game during World War II. What did he do?
Well, Franklin Roosevelt saved it after Pearl Harbor. The Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor on December 7th of '41, and baseball was clueless, which is not necessarily an exception. So Kennesaw Mountain Landis, the commissioner, wrote a letter to Franklin Roosevelt saying, what shall we do? Shall we fold our tent? Shall we go home? Shall we operate during the duration of the war? And the very next day, January 15th of '42, Roosevelt held a press conference. And he read the contents of his letter aloud, which I think exemplifies the importance of baseball to the nation. And he said not simply, do I want baseball to go forth, but baseball will go forth because of its importance on the morale of the home front and of the troops abroad. Well,
and speaking of morale, George W. Bush gave that opening pitch at the Yankees game after 9/11. How symbolic was that moment?
How symbolic is anything possible to be? He did a heroic act. It was the most heroic he ever became before or since. It was a stunning act. It was quintessentially presidential, quintessentially American. That was 6 weeks after, in fact, 9/11. And the trauma and the cry for simple justice rifled through Yankee Stadium and through every television set of every American watching that event. So Bush goes to the mound, to the rubber of the mound, not in front of the mound, which is far more difficult, and he throws a perfect strike. He could not have placed that ball more lovingly in the catcher's mitt had he walked it up and placed it in the mitt. And the crowd's noise, which electrified Yankee Stadium upon that act, must have been heard in Jersey City, which is about 20 to 30 miles away. It was a stunning act, and I think next to Roosevelt saving baseball, the most presidential act which exemplifies the twinning of the heart between baseball and the presidency of the United States.
Curt Smith, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.